The crimson sun dipped below the jagged horizon of Cygnus VI, casting long, ominous shadows across the Ferrocrete plains. Ilara Vance, her face etched with years of hardship and defiance, watched the sky bleed into darkness from her concealed vantage point. The wind, a constant companion on this desolate world, whipped at her threadbare cloak, carrying with it the metallic tang of industry and the faint, ever-present hum of imperial oppression. For decades, the Galactic Imperium had held Cygnus VI in its iron grip, draining its resources and crushing any spark of dissent. The once thriving mining colonies were now little more than glorified labor camps, their inhabitants toiling endlessly to feed the Empire's insatiable hunger for raw materials. Ilara, once a promising officer in the Imperial Navy, had witnessed the rot from within, the casual cruelty and blatant corruption that festered at the heart of the Imperium. Disgusted and disillusioned, she had deserted her post, choosing to fight for the freedom of her people rather than perpetuate their enslavement. Her small band of rebels, a motley collection of former miners, disgruntled technicians, and idealistic youths, operated in the shadows, launching small-scale raids against Imperial convoys and disrupting their operations whenever possible. But their efforts were like pebbles against a mountain. The Imperium was a vast, seemingly invincible force, its fleets bristling with advanced weaponry, and its legions of stormtroopers ever vigilant. "Anything on the scanners, Kalen?" Ilara asked, her voice low and gravelly. A young man with sharp features and nervous eyes adjusted the controls of a battered sensor console. "Just the usual, Ilara. Imperial patrol ships on their regular routes. Nothing out of the ordinary." Ilara frowned. "That's what worries me. It's been too quiet lately." The Imperium rarely tolerated even minor acts of defiance. Their usual response was swift and brutal, a display of overwhelming force designed to crush any hope of resistance. The silence suggested something else, perhaps a larger, more insidious plan. "We intercepted an encrypted Imperial transmission earlier," a gruff voice interjected. Torvin, a towering brute of a man with cybernetic enhancements grafted onto his left arm, stepped into the dimly lit command center. "It was heavily coded, but I managed to extract a few key phrases. Project Chimera, Ancient Shipyard, Sector Gamma 9. Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Ancient Shipyard. That's just a myth. Legend has it that during the First Galactic Era, before the Imperium, a powerful civilization built colossal warships in hidden orbital shipyards. But those were just stories." "Maybe not," Torvin rumbled. "I ran the coordinates through our star charts. Sector Gamma 9 is a sparsely populated region, mostly asteroid fields and derelict space stations. But there's one anomaly, a planetary system designated as Kepler 186f. It was written off as uninhabitable due to extreme radiation levels. But there's something there," Ilara finished, her mind racing. "Something the Imperium wants to keep hidden." "Exactly," Torvin nodded. "I think it's worth investigating." Ilara weighed the risks. A direct confrontation with the Imperium was almost certainly suicide. But if there was even a chance that the rumors were true, if there was a hidden shipyard containing advanced technology, it could be the key to turning the tide against the Empire. "We'll go," she declared, her voice firm. "Kalen, prepare the Stardust. Torvin, gather a team. We leave at dawn." The Stardust was a battered freighter, its hull scarred from countless smuggling runs and close calls with Imperial patrols. It was far from a warship, but it was fast and maneuverable, and its cloaking device, though temperamental, could provide a crucial advantage. As the Stardust hurtled through the black void of space towards Kepler 186f, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. But she also knew that they had no other choice. The people of Cygnus VI were counting on them, their hopes pinned on the possibility of a miracle. The journey to Kepler 186f was uneventful, but the tension on board the Stardust was palpable. Each member of the crew knew that their lives hung in the balance, that a single mistake could spell their doom. As they approached the designated coordinates, Kalen's eyes widened in disbelief. "Ilara, I'm picking up a massive energy signature. It's coming from the surface of Kepler 186. Ilara peered at the scanner readings. The energy signature was off the charts, unlike anything she had ever seen before. It was as if a sleeping giant was stirring from its slumber. "Bring us closer, Kalen," she ordered, her voice barely a whisper. Slowly and carefully. As the Stardust edged closer to Kepler 186f, the radiation levels began to spike. The ship's protective shields groaned under the strain, but they held. And then, through the swirling clouds of radiation and debris, they saw it. A colossal structure, dwarfing even the largest Imperial warships, loomed before them. It was a vessel of unimaginable size and power, its hull bristling with advanced weaponry, and its silhouette casting a long, ominous shadow across the barren landscape. "By the stars," Torvin breathed, his voice filled with awe and disbelief. "It's real. The ancient shipyard. And there, in the heart of it." Ilara followed his gaze. Partially obscured by the debris and shadows, she saw it, the unmistakable form of a supercarrier, a warship of legend, capable of single-handedly obliterating entire fleets. "The Leviathan," she whispered, the name escaping her lips like a prayer. "The one that brought an empire to its knees." Unbeknownst to Ilara and her crew, their arrival had not gone unnoticed. Hidden sensors, long dormant but still functional, had detected the Stardust's approach and relayed the information to a hidden command center deep within the shipyard. A figure stirred in the darkness, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. "So," a raspy voice hissed, "the scavengers have arrived. Let them come. The Leviathan is awake, and it hungers." Inside the ancient shipyard, dormant systems began to flicker back to life, awakened by the presence of the intruders. The supercarrier, the Leviathan, was about to rise again, and the galaxy would never be the same. Ilara knew that they had stumbled upon something far greater than they could have ever imagined. The fate of the Imperium, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested on their shoulders. The spark of rebellion had been lit, and the Leviathan was about to become its blazing inferno. As they prepared to enter the shipyard, Ilara couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. They were about to awaken a beast of unimaginable power, and she wasn't sure if they could control it. But she knew that they had to try. The freedom of her people and the future of the galaxy depended on it. The Leviathan's wake was about to begin. Ilara Vance stood on the precipice of a dream, a perilous one at that. The Leviathan, a slumbering behemoth of a bygone era, lay dormant within the ancient shipyard, a testament to a civilization that had mastered technologies the Imperium could only dream of. But dreams, especially those of rebellion, required more than just vision. They demanded resourcefulness, resilience, and a healthy dose of audacity. "The primary power conduits are fused," reported Jackson, a wiry engineer with a knack for coaxing life back into dead machinery. He wiped a sheen of grease from his forehead, leaving a dark smudge on his skin. "It's going to take a miracle to get them back online, Ilara." Ilara surveyed the cavernous chamber, filled with the skeletal remains of automated assembly lines and the ghostly echoes of long-dead technicians. "Miracles are in short supply these days, Jackson, but we'll take ingenuity instead. What do we need?" The list was daunting. Rare isotopes for the primary reactor, specialized polymers for the hull repairs, and a functioning AI core to control the supercarrier's vast systems. The Imperium controlled the supply of these materials, hoarding them for their own military expansion. Obtaining them would require a series of daring raids and clandestine deals with black market traders. "Torvin, I need you to assemble a team for a supply run to Nar Shaddaa," Ilara instructed. "There's a contact there, a Rhodian named Grease, who might be able to get us what we need. But be careful, the Imperium has eyes and ears everywhere." Nar Shaddaa, the infamous smuggler's moon, was a hive of scum and villainy, a place where fortunes were made and lives were lost in equal measure. It was a necessary risk. Meanwhile, Ilara focused on the technical challenges of restoring the Leviathan to its former glory. The Supercarrier's AI core, a marvel of ancient technology, was damaged beyond conventional repair. It required a complete reboot and reprogramming, a task that would push their limited resources and expertise to the breaking point. "Kalen, I need you to dive into the AI core's data logs," Ilara said, turning to the young hacker. "See if you can find any clues about its original programming. We need to understand how it works before we can even think about rewriting it." Kalen, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface, immersed himself in the labyrinthine code of the ancient AI. Days turned into nights as he deciphered the cryptic symbols and complex algorithms, piecing together the fragments of a forgotten civilization. As they delved deeper into the Leviathan systems, they began to uncover disturbing truths about its creators. The Supercarrier was not just a warship, it was a symbol of technological hubris, a weapon of mass destruction built by a civilization that had become obsessed with power and control. Its history was stained with the blood of countless victims, its purpose to enforce the will of a tyrannical regime. "This isn't just a weapon, Ilara," Kalen said, his voice filled with unease. "It's a monster. Are we sure we want to unleash it?" Ilara understood his concerns. The power of the Leviathan was immense, and the temptation to use it to crush the Imperium was strong. But she also knew that power corrupts, and that the line between liberator and oppressor could easily be blurred. "We use it only as a last resort," she declared, her voice firm. "Our goal is not to replace one tyranny with another, but to create a better future for all." Meanwhile, Torvin's team had arrived on Nar Shaddaa, navigating the treacherous underworld of smugglers, bounty hunters, and Imperial spies. Grease, their Rhodian contact, proved to be a slippery character, demanding exorbitant prices for the rare materials they needed. "The Imperium is cracking down hard on smugglers," Grease hissed, his bulbous eyes darting nervously around the dimly lit cantina. "The risks are higher than ever. You want those isotopes, you gotta pay." Torvin, his cybernetic arm gleaming ominously, leaned closer to the Rhodian. "We're not asking, Grease. We're telling. We need those materials, and we're not afraid to get our hands dirty." A tense standoff ensued, broken only by the arrival of a squad of Imperial stormtroopers, alerted to their presence by a snitch. A firefight erupted, the cantina erupting in chaos as rebels and Imperials exchanged blaster fire. Torvin and his team fought their way through the crowded streets of Nar Shaddaa, dodging blaster bolts and evading Imperial patrols. They managed to secure the isotopes, but not without suffering casualties. One of their comrades, a young woman named Lyra, was struck by a blaster bolt and killed. Her death weighed heavily on Ilara, a grim reminder of the cost of their rebellion. But it also strengthened her resolve. They could not afford to fail. The lives of countless others depended on their success. Back at the ancient shipyard, Kalen had made a breakthrough. He had discovered a hidden subroutine within the AI core, a fail-safe designed to prevent the Supercarrier from falling into the wrong hands. The subroutine could be activated to disable the Leviathan permanently, but it would also erase all of its data, including the knowledge of its advanced technologies. Ilara faced a difficult choice: risk unleashing the full power of the Leviathan, with all its potential for destruction, or sacrifice its capabilities to prevent it from being used for evil. After much deliberation, she made her decision. "We activate the failsafe," she declared. "We cannot allow this weapon to fall into the hands of the Imperium, or anyone else who would abuse its power." Kalen activated the subroutine, and the ancient AI core flickered and died, its vast knowledge erased forever. The Leviathan's potential was now limited, but they had succeeded in their purpose. With the primary reactor back online, and the hull repairs nearing completion, the Leviathan was slowly coming back to life. It was a shadow of its former self, but it was still a formidable warship, capable of challenging the Imperium's might. Ilara gathered her crew in the main hangar bay, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. "We are about to embark on a mission that will change the course of history. We will strike a blow against the Imperium, a blow that will inspire others to join our cause. We will show them that the Empire is not invincible, that freedom is worth fighting for." As the hangar doors slowly opened, revealing the black void of space, Ilara Vance stood at the helm of the Leviathan, ready to lead her rebels into battle. The beast was awake, and the galaxy would tremble. The bridge of the Leviathan hummed with nervous energy. Ilara Vance, her gaze fixed on the holographic display, felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. Their first strike against the Imperium had to be decisive, a blow that would cripple their supply lines and ignite the flames of rebellion across the galaxy. "Our target is the Imperial Supply Depot on Taris Prime," Ilara announced, her voice clear and commanding. "It's a heavily fortified facility, but it's also a vital link in the Empire's chain of command. If we can cripple it, we can disrupt their operations for months." Taris Prime, a once thriving agricultural world, had been transformed into a sprawling military complex by the Imperium. Its fertile fields were now covered in ferrocrete bunkers and defensive emplacements, its skies patrolled by squadrons of Imperial fighters. "The Imperials will be expecting us," Torvin warned. "They'll have every available ship and soldier ready to defend that depot." "That's why we need to surprise them," Ilara replied. "We'll use the Leviathan's cloaking device to slip past their defenses and launch a surgical strike against the depot's main reactor. One well-placed shot, and the whole facility will go up in flames." The Leviathan, its cloaking device activated, slipped silently through the outer reaches of the Taris system, evading the watchful eyes of Imperial patrol ships. As they approached Taris Prime, the Supercarrier decelerated, its massive bulk shrouded in an invisible veil. "Cloaking field holding steady," Kalin reported from his station. "But the Imperials are using advanced sensors. They might detect us at any moment." "We don't have a choice," Ilara said. "We have to take the risk." As they approached the supply depot, Ilara ordered the cloaking device to be deactivated. The sudden appearance of the Leviathan, a colossal warship materializing out of thin air, sent shockwaves through the Imperial defenses. "Alert! Alert! Unidentified vessel detected!" screamed the Imperial comms officer, his voice filled with panic. It's the Leviathan. "All ships, scramble. Defend the depot." Chaos erupted as Imperial fighters scrambled from their hangars, their energy weapons blazing. Turbolaser batteries on the surface of Taris Prime opened fire, sending volleys of energy bolts streaking towards the Leviathan. "Evasive maneuvers," Ilara ordered. "Return fire. Target the turbolaser batteries." The Leviathan, despite its age and limited capabilities, proved to be a formidable opponent. Its energy shields absorbed the brunt of the Imperial fire, while its turbolaser cannons unleashed devastating barrages against the surface defenses. A fierce battle raged in the skies above Taris Prime, the clash of energy weapons illuminating the darkened landscape. Imperial fighters swarmed around the Leviathan, their nimble silhouettes darting between the Supercarrier's massive turrets. "We're taking heavy fire," Rodriguez shouted from his tactical station. "Our shields are weakening." Ilara knew that they couldn't sustain this level of fire for long. They had to reach the depot's main reactor quickly, or their mission would fail. "Torvin, prepare a boarding party," Ilara instructed. "We're going to take out that reactor from the inside." Torvin, his cybernetic arm whirring to life, assembled a squad of heavily armed rebels. They boarded a squadron of assault shuttles and launched towards the surface of Taris Prime, their mission to infiltrate the supply depot and plant explosives on the main reactor. The assault shuttles, protected by a barrage of covering fire from the Leviathan, managed to slip past the Imperial defenses and land inside the depot's perimeter. Torvin and his team stormed the facility, engaging in fierce close-quarters combat with Imperial stormtroopers. "We're inside the reactor chamber," Torvin reported over the comms. planting the charges now. As Torvin's team planted the explosives, Ilara focused on keeping the Leviathan alive, deflecting incoming fire and targeting key Imperial installations. The battle was a desperate struggle for survival, with the fate of the rebellion hanging in the balance. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the supply depot. The main reactor went critical, unleashing a torrent of energy that ripped through the facility. A chain reaction ensued, detonating fuel stores and ammunition dumps, turning the entire depot into a raging inferno. "The reactor is down," Torvin announced, his voice filled with triumph. "Mission accomplished." With the supply depot destroyed, Ilara ordered the Leviathan to withdraw. They had achieved their objective, but at a heavy cost. Many rebels had been killed or wounded in the attack, and the Leviathan had sustained significant damage. As they limped away from Taurus Prime, Ilara couldn't help but feel a sense of somber satisfaction. They had struck a blow against the Imperium, a blow that would resonate across the galaxy. But she also knew that the Empire would retaliate, and that the war was far from over. The Leviathan's wake had truly started. The destruction of the Taurus Prime supply depots sent shockwaves throughout the Galactic Imperium. High Command was in disarray, and the Emperor himself was said to be furious. The audacity of the rebels, daring to strike at the heart of Imperial power, could not go unpunished. A massive Imperial fleet, led by the ruthless Admiral Valerius, was dispatched to hunt down the Leviathan and crush the rebellion. Valerius was a man known for his unwavering loyalty to the Emperor and his brutal efficiency in suppressing dissent. He would stop at nothing to bring Ilara Vance and her rebels to justice. "The Imperials are mobilizing a large fleet," Callan reported, his fingers flying across the sensor console. "They're heading in our direction. It looks like they're taking this personally." "Valerius," Ilara muttered, her voice filled with disdain. "He's a butcher. He won't hesitate to wipe out entire planets to make an example of us." Ilara knew that they couldn't stand and fight against such overwhelming force. They had to evade the Imperial fleet and find a safe haven where they could regroup and repair the Leviathan. "We'll use the nebula routes," Ilara decided. "They're treacherous and difficult to navigate, but they're also the only way to avoid the Imperial patrols." The nebula routes were a network of dense interstellar clouds, filled with charged particles and magnetic anomalies. Navigation through these regions was extremely difficult, requiring skilled pilots and advanced sensors. But they also offered a degree of concealment, making it harder for Imperial ships to track them. The Leviathan, its engines straining, plunged into the swirling depths of the nebula. The ship was buffeted by intense electromagnetic fields, and its sensors flickered erratically. "We're losing our shields," Rodriguez shouted. "The nebula is tearing us apart." Ilara gripped the arms of her command chair, her knuckles white. She had to hold the ship together, to guide them through the treacherous nebula and out the other side. Days turned into weeks as the Leviathan struggled through the nebula. The crew endured constant stress and fatigue, battling malfunctioning equipment and the ever-present threat of detection. "We're being tracked," Callan announced, his voice filled with alarm. "The Imperials have found a way to penetrate our cloaking field." Ilara knew that their time was running out. Valerius was closing in, and they had nowhere left to run. "Prepare for battle," Ilara ordered. "We'll make our stand here, in the heart of the nebula." As the Imperial fleet emerged from the swirling clouds, the Leviathan turned to face them, its turbolaser cannons blazing. The battle was joined. A chaotic melee fought amidst the swirling gases and magnetic anomalies of the nebula. The Leviathan, despite its damage and limited capabilities, fought with surprising ferocity. Ilara and her crew used their knowledge of the nebula to their advantage, luring Imperial ships into dangerous magnetic fields and ambushing them from behind interstellar clouds. But the Imperial fleet was too numerous, too powerful. The Leviathan was taking heavy damage, its shields failing and its hull buckling under the relentless barrage of energy weapons. "We can't hold out much longer," Rodriguez shouted. We need a miracle. Ilara knew that their situation was desperate, but she refused to give up hope. She had come too far, sacrificed too much, to surrender now. "There's one thing we haven't tried," Ilara said, her voice filled with determination. "The gravity well generator. It's unstable, but if we can activate it, it might create a localized distortion in space-time, enough to throw the Imperial fleet into chaos." The gravity well generator was a relic from the Leviathan's past, a device designed to manipulate gravity and create artificial black holes. It was incredibly powerful, but also incredibly dangerous. If it malfunctioned, it could tear the Leviathan apart. "It's too risky, Ilara," Torvin protested. "We could destroy ourselves." "We have no other choice," Ilara replied. "It's our only chance to survive." Ilara ordered the gravity well generator to be activated. The ship shuddered violently as the device came to life, its energy output surging to dangerous levels. A localized distortion in space-time began to form around the Leviathan, its gravity field pulling in everything around it. Imperial ships were caught in the gravity well, their hulls twisting and buckling under the immense pressure. Chaos erupted in the Imperial fleet as ships collided with each other, their crews screaming in terror. Valerius, his face contorted with rage, ordered his ships to withdraw. The Leviathan, its gravity well generator straining to its limits, managed to escape the nebula, leaving behind a scene of utter devastation. The Imperial fleet was crippled, its morale shattered. Ilara and her crew had survived another day, but they knew that Valerius would be back. The Empire was wounded, but it was far from defeated. The Leviathan's wake continued. The successful raid on Taurus Prime bought the nascent rebellion valuable time and resources, but it also painted a giant target on their backs. The Galactic Imperium, stung by the humiliation, began a relentless campaign to hunt down the Leviathan and crush the uprising before it could spread. Ilara knew they couldn't keep running forever. They needed allies, resources, and a plan, a long-term strategy to challenge the Empire's dominance. "Our intelligence suggests a possible haven on the planet Veritas," Callan reported, his holographic display showing a verdant, jungle-covered world. "It's a remote system, largely ignored by the Imperium. Local rumors speak of a hidden colony, descendants of an ancient civilization that vanished millennia ago." "Vanished civilizations don't usually leave welcome mats," Torvin grumbled, his cybernetic arm flexing. "Sounds like a trap." "It's a risk we have to take," Ilara countered. "Veritas might hold the key to our survival. If these colonists possess advanced knowledge or resources, they could be invaluable allies." She paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Besides, the Imperium will expect us to keep running. Heading towards a forgotten world might just be crazy enough to work." The journey to Veritas was fraught with peril. Imperial patrols were now more frequent and vigilant, forcing the Leviathan to rely heavily on its aging cloaking device and navigate through treacherous asteroid fields. The constant tension took its toll on the crew, but Ilara kept their spirits high, reminding them of the hope they carried for a better future. As they approached Veritas, the sensors picked up unusual energy signatures emanating from the planet's surface. They were unlike anything they had encountered before, subtle, almost organic pulses that seemed to resonate with the planet itself. "Something's not right," Callan said, his brow furrowed. "These energy readings, they're not technological. It's like the planet is alive." Ilara ordered the Leviathan to enter Veritas's atmosphere cautiously. As they descended through the dense cloud cover, they were greeted by a breathtaking sight. Towering trees stretched towards the sky, their branches interwoven to form a vast, emerald canopy. Waterfalls cascaded down sheer cliffs, and exotic creatures flitted through the air. It was a paradise, untouched by the ravages of the Imperium. But the beauty hid a secret. As they flew deeper into the jungle, they spotted structures unlike anything they had imagined. Buildings crafted from living plants, shimmering with bioluminescent light, blended seamlessly with the natural environment. They were the work of the Viridian colonists, descendants of a race known as the Arborians. The Arborians were a reclusive, pacifistic people with a deep connection to nature. They possessed advanced knowledge of botany, genetics, and energy manipulation, but they had long abandoned technology in favor of a harmonious existence with their planet. When the Leviathan landed in a clearing near the Arborian settlement, they were met by a delegation of elders, their faces etched with curiosity and apprehension. The Arborians, led by a wise woman named Lyra, listened intently as Ilara explained their plight and their struggle against the Imperium. "We have foreseen your arrival," Lyra said, her voice soft but resonant. "The threads of fate have intertwined your destiny with ours. But be warned, the path ahead is fraught with peril." The Arborians were initially reluctant to get involved in the conflict. They had lived in peace for centuries, shielded from the chaos of the galaxy. But Ilara's passionate plea for freedom and justice resonated with their deepest values. "We are not warriors," Lyra explained, "but we cannot stand idly by while tyranny reigns. We will offer you our knowledge and our resources, but we will not take up arms." The Arborians shared their secrets with Ilara and her crew, teaching them how to harness the planet's natural energy and use it to enhance the Leviathan's capabilities. They also provided them with rare medicinal herbs and advanced healing techniques, revitalizing the crew and mending their wounds. Kalen, in particular, was fascinated by the Arborians' understanding of energy manipulation. He spent hours studying their ancient texts and learning their techniques, discovering new ways to improve the Leviathan's cloaking device and energy shields. Torvin, however, remained skeptical. He distrusted the Arborians' pacifistic ways, believing that only force could defeat the Imperium. But as he witnessed their compassion and their unwavering commitment to their values, his hardened heart began to soften. During their time on Veritas, Ilara and her crew discovered a hidden chamber beneath the Arborian settlement. Inside, they found a series of holographic recordings detailing the history of the Arborians and their ancestors. They learned that the Arborians were once a powerful, technologically advanced civilization, but they had destroyed themselves in a cataclysmic war. The survivors had vowed to abandon technology and embrace a life of peace and harmony with nature. The recordings also revealed a secret weapon, a device known as the Heart of Veritas, capable of generating a powerful energy field that could disrupt Imperial technology. But the device was damaged and required rare crystals to be repaired. Ilara knew that the Heart of Veritas could be the key to turning the tide against the Imperium. But obtaining the crystals would require a dangerous mission into Imperial territory. "We have a choice to make," Ilara said to her crew. "We can stay here, safe and hidden, or we can risk everything to obtain the crystals and activate the Heart of Veritas. What do you say?" The crew looked at each other, their faces etched with determination. They had come too far to back down now. They would face the Imperium, no matter the cost. "We're with you, Ilara," Torvin said, his voice filled with resolve. "Let's get those crystals and show the Empire what we're made of." The Leviathan's wake would continue, and they would be ready. The respite on Veritas proved invaluable, but it couldn't last forever. The Imperium's long reach was tightening, and soon, Ilara knew, they would come looking. The Arborians, with their innate sensitivity to the planet's energies, detected disturbances in the force, signs of an approaching darkness. It was time to move. "The Imperium is closing in," Lyra warned, her eyes filled with concern. "Their presence is like a blight upon Veritas. You must leave before they discover our sanctuary." Ilara nodded, her heart heavy. She was grateful for the Arborians' help, but she knew that staying would only endanger them further. "We will leave at once," she said, "but we will not forget your kindness. One day we will return and repay our debt." The crew of the Leviathan prepared for departure, their spirits bolstered by the knowledge and resources they had gained on Veritas. Kalen had made significant progress in enhancing the ship's cloaking device, making it even more difficult for the Imperium to detect them. Torvin, inspired by the Arborians' connection to nature, had begun to explore new ways to integrate organic components into the ship's systems, improving its efficiency and resilience. As the Leviathan soared into the blackness of space, Ilara turned her thoughts to their next objective. They needed to find allies, to rally support for their cause. She had heard rumors of a rebel network operating in the Outer Rim, a group of independent systems and rogue factions united in their opposition to the Imperium. "Our destination is the Colossal Republic," Ilara announced. "It's a loose alliance of smugglers, mercenaries, and freedom fighters. They might be willing to join our cause." The journey to the Colossal Republic was long and arduous. They faced constant harassment from Imperial patrols, forcing them to rely on their cloaking device and their piloting skills to evade detection. They also encountered pirates and bounty hunters, eager to claim the bounty on the Leviathan's head. But through it all, Ilara and her crew persevered, driven by their unwavering commitment to freedom and justice. They were not just fighting for their own survival, they were fighting for the future of the galaxy. As they approached the Colossal Republic, they were met by a squadron of heavily armed fighters, their markings identifying them as belonging to the Crimson Hawks, a notorious mercenary group. "Halt! This is Crimson Hawk Patrol," the lead fighter pilot barked over the comms. "Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Ilara identified the Leviathan and requested permission to speak with the Colossal Republic's leaders. After a tense standoff, the Crimson Hawks agreed to escort them to the Republic's capital, a sprawling space station known as the Citadel. The Citadel was a chaotic hub of activity, filled with smugglers, mercenaries, and traders from all corners of the galaxy. It was a place where fortunes were made and lost, where alliances were forged and broken, and where the seeds of rebellion were sown. Ilara and her crew were greeted by the Colossal Republic's leader, a shrewd and charismatic woman named Anya Petrova. Anya was a former Imperial admiral who had defected to the rebellion after witnessing the Empire's atrocities firsthand. "Welcome to the Colossal Republic," Anya said, her voice warm but cautious. "I have heard tales of your exploits against the Imperium. You have certainly made a name for yourselves."